Hello everyone and welcome to another episode. Today we'll be doing some more Christmas goodies. We are making cupcakes which will be decorated in a Christmas theme. So for our cupcakes, the first thing we're going to do is mix all of our dry ingredients. So we're going to put some sifted flour into a bowl. And then we're going to add our baking soda, baking powder and salt. And we are just going to mix this. Okay, so now we're going to mix our wet ingredients. We are going to add our 4 eggs to the bowl. We are going to beat these 4 eggs for about 30 seconds to a minute just to get them light and fluffy. And that you're just beating on a low speed. Then we're going to add our sugar to your eggs. And we're just going to beat that again for another 30 seconds. So in the last video, I used my hand to mix all my ingredients, and in this video I'm using a mixer because we want an aerated cake. We want air to go into our cake so that it can rise in the oven and it's light and fluffy, basically. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add is our vanilla essence. And we're going to add the oil. And now we just mix this for 30 seconds and we add the rest. So preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Just let that get to 180 degrees, so give it like 15 minutes and it should be ready to put your cupcakes into the oven. Next we're going to add half of our flour mixture and half of the milk mixture. And you're doing it half-half so that everything is mixed in. So it's just making sure that everything. So you don't want to mix this too long. We don't want to over mix the mix. So as soon as you see that everything's incorporated, then it's done. Stop mixing. So just mix this now on low until everything is mixed together. Okay. Now you'll have some flour on the outside and you can just incorporate that in. So just fold it into your mix. Okay. Now we're going to put these in our cupcake tray. I'm using the size 14 cupcake cases, the American 14. So you can just put these in your cupcake tray. And also I measure every cupcake. So I'm using a 60 ml quarter cup measuring cup. And so now we just put it into our cases. So the first tray of cupcakes that I filled, I used a full 60 ml cup, but for these ones, the second tray that I'm doing, I want these cupcakes to be a bit smaller than that. So I'm just filling the cupcake case halfway so that they don't rise as high as the other ones are going to. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm decorating them differently, and you'll see what I'm going to do. Our next step is to make our butter icing while your cupcakes are in the oven. So I'm just gonna take half of this bar of wooden spoon. I'll take 250 grams. And how I get my 250 from this bar, I make a cut horizontally across and horizontally across the other way. And then where those two lines meet, that will be my 250. And then I just cut this one up into little pieces. And we put it into our bowl. Okay, now we're just gonna soften this with our mixer and then we'll add our icing sugar. Remember to leave your butter out overnight or just a few hours before you're gonna bake, just so that it can be soft enough to mix with your icing sugar. So now we're gonna sift in 600 grams of icing sugar. And we're just gonna do it a little bit at a time so that we don't make a mess all over the place. So you've sifted in your icing sugar. You could just take the mixer straight to this, but it's going to make a huge poof of icing sugar smoke. So you can just mix it in a little bit with a spatula. Now we just add some more icing sugar. And you do this until all your icing sugar is in the bowl. So if you find that your icing sugar, your buttercream is getting thick and too stiff, you can add 5 ml of vanilla essence, which will also give it the vanilla flavor. And if the vanilla essence isn't enough, then you can add a little bit of milk. So you just need to add milk to get the consistency that you want. Okay, so we are gonna color our butter icing with green food coloring. I'm using a gel, and I don't really like the dark green, so I'm using the light green and a dash of the dark green, just so that the brightness stands out more. And then you can just mix it further. Okay, so once you get the color that you want, because I use powder, this is gonna develop and get a bit darker. So I'm gonna leave this and we're gonna make some decorations for our cupcakes while this darkens and while our cupcakes cool down. Okay, so while we're still waiting for our cupcakes to cool down, we're gonna make some Christmassy decorations using fondant. And you can refer back to my previous video of the snowman on how to make gum paste and how to color your gum paste. So I'm first going to start by making a gingerbread man. So we're just going to break a piece of fondant off and we're going to roll it out. It doesn't have to be too thin. And we're going to cut out a gingerbread man. Okay, so if they look a bit rough around the edges, you can just use a flat paintbrush and just brush it under, just to neaten the corners that look broken off. Okay, so we're going to use 2 black dragées with some glue. So we're just adding our cute eyes. And I have red dragées here as well, so just make a dot where you want to put the mouth. And if you want to get a little fancy, you can add buttons to your gingerbread man's belly. So we can just add 2 buttons in the middle of his belly. So we're just adding 2 dots of glue where we're going to stick these gold buttons. Okay, and then we're just going to transfer our gingerbread men onto our foam so that it can get dry. The next thing I'm going to make a giant bow for the top of the cupcake creation I'm going to make. Okay, we're just going to cut a strip out of our red, and we just try to keep it straight. Okay, and you do the other side to the thickness that you want your bow to be. So you can see which side you like better, if you like the shiny side or the matte side. So I'm going to leave the shiny side on the outside. So the matte side will be the inside of your bow, so you won't see this part. So what you're going to do is, you're going to ruche the end of the fondant. So you're just going to connect it like that. Just going to fold it over basically so that it creates a crease at the end there, because this is going to be the inside of your bow. And you just do the same thing with the other end. You're just creating creases. And we're going to add a little bit of glue in the center. And that's where your 2 sides are going to fold over into. Okay, so you're going to bring that in. And you want to create some movement in the center there. And you're going to take some batting. And you're just going to stuff it in the side here so that it makes your bow stand up. Okay. So you just want to stick that in that glue over there. And just create sort of the folds where fabric would fold. You want to create that same effect. And you're going to do the same with the other side. You just stick them there in the middle. And you do the same with this piece of fondant, create folds and movement in your bow. So you want to crease it and make it sort of mushed up like a bow would be. And then you can just also bring the bottom part to the center, the bottom part of the bow to the center. And you just need to make sure that both sides are the same. So you can just use your eye for that, or you could get technical and measure everything. Cut a small piece, and just a neat piece as well, but it can be broad, so that edge doesn't really matter because it's gonna be folded to the back. And then we're going to do the same, keep that piece. We're going to do the same with this, and we're going to create creases in the center. So we just want to zigzag it, fold it sort of like a concertina, but make sure it's not sticking to each other. Okay. And we're going to put glue on this top part, and then we'll put glue on the edges of this piece, so that it can glue at the back of your bow, because the underside of the bow you won't see. Because remember, when you're tying a ribbon, you can't control the folds in a ribbon, so that's what we're trying to create, exactly the same as material. Okay, so that's the center of your bow, and then we are going to add our little pieces at the bottom. So we just need to add some glue, and you can make it longer, or you can make it shorter, you can cut it to make it shorter. But we also just want to add movement into this bottom piece. So I just need to add some glue to make it stick. And we're just going to create movement as well. You can add some batting just to hold it up so that it can get dry in this shape. So now we're going to make some candy canes using our white and red fondant. So we're just going to break off a piece of white and we're going to roll it into a sausage. Okay, so once you've rolled out your sausages and you've twisted the two colors together, you're just going to squeeze it a little bit so that the two colors can sort of mix together. Just going to squish it so that they incorporate into each other and it becomes one piece of fondant. So I'm using a cake smoother just to create the sausage shape without my finger marks getting on the fondant. So we're going to cut it over here and then we're just going to make, I'm just twisting it some more so we get the two colors, and we're just going to bend it in the shape of your candy cane and we can put it on the foam to dry. And that's your candy cane. We're just going to make the rest of them. So for our first cupcake creation, we are going to do a Christmas wreath. So I'm just going to use these green cups, and the cupcakes that didn't rise as much as the other ones, the one that we wanted a bit flatter, I'm going to use those ones. So I'm just going to put them into these cases. You can just stuff them in there. I don't like to bake with the cardboard cases because they burn sometimes. So I bake them in the white cups first and then I just stuff them into these cases. So we want the cupcake to be flush with the outside. So what I do is I trim them so that they flatter. So what I do with my offcuts of the tops of the cupcakes, I mush them up with some butter icing and I make cake pops, but I'll probably make a video showing you what to do with your offcuts of your cakes. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to arrange these on a cake board because we want them to be in a circle. We want that shape. And we're just going to move this aside. And we're just going to put our butter icing in a piping bag. So I just got a normal piping bag. I have a very small open star tip. And I just cut the bottom part of the piping bag off enough for the nozzle just to pop through. So we're just going to put some of our butter icing in the piping bag. So what I like to do is roll over the edge, roll the edge over so that your hand doesn't get dirty and that you know that you have control over how much you're putting inside as well. So I don't think we're going to need that much because we're going to pipe it quite flat. So I'll just do 2 spoons of it. And you're using your hand to sort of put all the excess in your piping bag as well. Okay, and now we're just going to push this down to our tip. And just squeeze it all down to the bottom of the bag. Make sure that there's no air bubbles. We want to just, because that's going to cause a gap or a hole in your piping. So we're just going to push it to the edge and we can test it in our other icing. So we just pipe it over there and we can see, okay, it comes out fine. And at this point you can see if your consistency is right or not. So mine is right. Okay, so I'm going to use the icing to glue my cupcakes to the board as well. So we're just going to make a little dot of icing sugar so that they stick to the board. I don't like to use glue. I'm like allowed to stick it to the board because kids tend to lick and eat anything. So you just want to start in the center and then in a circular motion move out, and you just cut it moving in and no more squeezing. So I'm just pushing the icing back down and I'm twisting the top so that it's easier to push it out the nozzle. Center and twirl. Okay, so once your cupcakes are all iced, we can add our decorations. So I'm first going to add my bow once it's hard. Choose what you want the top to be. And we're just going to stick that to the cupcake. And then we can add our gingerbread men randomly on a cupcake. We can add an extra gingerbread man over there. Yeah, and then we can add our candy cane wherever you want it to be. We can add some stars. I have some stars. And just add that randomly as well. Okay, and then I also have, we can add some red balls to this as well, just to break all the green color. Okay, and to finish this off, I am going to add some glitter to the top. And this is edible glitter, not normal craft glitter. And that is your Christmas wreath. Okay, so the next way we're going to decorate our cupcake is we're going to make a Christmas tree. So I've used a bigger closed star nozzle and prepared the bag the same way as the previous one. But now with this one, we're going to start on the inside, and also notice I didn't trim any of this cupcake away. So we want to start in the center again, but we want to sort of build it up so that our Christmas tree is taller. So squeeze in the middle and then take it out and then bring it back to the center and bring it up. So we want it to be tall. So the same with this one, build up in the center, take it out and bring it back to the center and squeeze. So we'll do these 4 like this. So now to decorate these, we are going to use our red, green, gold balls, and a little star for the top. So you can just stick the balls in wherever you want it to go, because this is going to be like your Christmas tree decoration. And if your icing is the way I've made mine, it's a bit drier, so nothing's sticking to it, so you need to stick the balls to it. I'm using these green balls because they're metallic, and that's why I made my icing the color it is, so that the metallic green ball can stick out. Now we're just going to stick our gold ones on. Okay, so once you've done all your decoration, you can just add glitter to your cupcakes to make them sparkle. Okay, done. If you guys have any questions, or if you came across any problems or any cakes-idents, then just let me know, pop me a mail or comment on this video, and I will be glad to respond to anything.